Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to Robmotive. It is still raining outside. I think I'm going to have to trade the Tacoma in for an Arc. Today, I wanted to talk about 7 Toyota Tacoma essentials for emergency situations. You know, it's days like this that I start to think about things like this, because if I was out driving around and I was involved in an emergency situation, could be anything, flat tire, truck quits running. Of course, you know that's never going to happen with a Tacoma, but you never know what could happen. And there are 7 things, minimal, I think, that you should have in the Tacoma that I need to go ahead and finish. I haven't finished this whole list myself, but things that you need to have in the Tacoma, essentials for an emergency situation. Number 1, tools. Now, I'm not talking about a whole tool chest, you know, lugging this thing and throwing it in the bed so that you have everything you ever owned in there. I'm talking about just a minimal set of tools to be able to get you out of a problem should something arise. Part of that should be, in my opinion, pliers, a screwdriver, and a knife. That's really all you need. Those 3 things can get you out of most bad situations should something happen. I mean, let's say that for some reason your exhaust bolt comes off or it gets loose and starts jumping around all over the place. With a pair of pliers in a pinch, you could get under there and tighten that thing up. Might throw in a little thing of wire, by the way, too. Wire will fix all kinds of things in the short term. Number 2, of course, a flashlight. You know, if you're out somewhere and it's at night, let's say you have to change a flat tire rather than wait on one of those services to show up 3.5 hours later, you might need a flashlight so you can see what you're doing. It would surely help, especially if it's pitch black outside. Another thing along that same vein I would throw in are probably a set of flares. If you're on a busy road or maybe a dark road out in the middle of nowhere, you want to have something to alert other people that you're pulled off the side of the road so that they can see you. And you don't want to leave your lights on without the truck running, because then you're going to run your battery down. Now you're going to have a whole other problem. Number 3, some sort of little jump starter device. You've seen those little things that you can charge up, that in a pinch you can hook up to your battery and jump your battery from it. Really a great idea, particularly, again, most of these things to me seem to be more possible at night, but even during the day, if you're out in the middle of nowhere by yourself and you pull off, let's say you pull off at a rest stop or something, and unbeknownst to you, your battery is at its end of life and it needs a charge. You can whip that thing out, hook it to the battery, and at least make it to some sort of a service station somewhere so that you can get the battery replaced. Again, other than waiting for 3 or 4 hours, especially if you're out in the middle of nowhere, on one of those auto services to show up. Number 4, gloves and a hat. You know, for someone like me, I keep my hair very short. And if I lived in a winter climate, and actually it's kind of cold out here right now, hence the coat, right? And I have to be outside doing something, it'd be nice to put a hat on. And that's something you can easily throw in the storage area underneath the back seat. Gloves, well, that makes perfect sense. When you have still office hands like I have, you need to protect your hands while you're doing whatever it is that you have to do to get mobile again, like changing that tire. Last thing you want to do is tear up your hands and now have a whole nother problem in addition to whatever went wrong to begin with. Number 5, a TBar for changing tires. Now, if you don't know what that is, it's exactly what it states. It's a TBar. It looks like a T, right? And it's got long handles on all sides, so that you can get leverage when you're trying to get those lug nuts off. I'll tell you a story. Years ago, my wife called me. I was, I think I was at work, and she had taken my daughter to school or something. And she got a flat tire in a parking lot at a school. Nobody else around could help her. Now, I'm not saying they didn't try. A couple of big burly guys, she said, came out there and they tried to use that little wrench to get her tire off, and they couldn't do it. They couldn't budge it. So I showed up with my TBar, grabbed both, and I was not real happy anyway. But I showed up with my TBar, grabbed both ends, and got that thing off. I couldn't believe that these great big guys could not loosen the lug nuts. They were probably twice my size. But it's all about leverage, right? And maybe attitude when you show up. Definitely handy to have. They have different size lugs, I guess, around each side, or different sizes to fit your lugs. So you shouldn't have any problem getting one that'll work for you. They are kind of bulky. There are some that break down though. They kind of pull out and fold over. But still, it's a great thing to have in case of an emergency, and just to make it a little bit easier should you need to change a spare tire or put your spare tire on. Next up, a plastic tarp. You know, I never really thought about this until recently. If you're out and it's really bad weather, let's say there's salt and water and all kinds of crap all over the road, very handy to have that to throw down so that you're not all covered in stuff. Just got a delivery, something for the Toyota Tacoma, big project coming up there. Came from Cali Rays, by the way, in case that gives you any idea. But back to the video. A tarp, a great thing to have so that you don't get covered in all kinds of stuff while you're outside trying to change that flat tire. Or maybe you need to crawl underneath the truck for some reason. Think about it. If you're out in a winter environment and there's snow on the ground, it's all wet and mucky and nasty. You know how it gets in the winter, right? Or even if it's raining like it is outside right now, I'd much rather crawl around on a plastic tarp than on the ground with all that stuff all over the place. Lastly, and maybe most importantly, a first aid kit. You know, I mentioned earlier you want to wear gloves so you don't damage yourself, but if you happen to, it'd be nice to be able to take care of that when you can. Now, I'm not talking about something that's all inclusive. In other words, you could set up a clean room and perform surgery on yourself. You need to get to the emergency room if it's that bad. I'm talking about Band-Aids, gauze, maybe the stuff you wrap around, some kind of antiseptic cream or something like that. Maybe even that clot stuff or whatever in case it's really bad. Just something to get you out of a pinch until you can get medical attention. Very important, I think, and like I said, probably the most important part of the whole list. Anyway, those are just 7 Toyota Tacoma, or really any truck or vehicle, essentials for emergency purposes. You never know what's going to happen, and it's kind of like insurance. You buy insurance just in case. This is the same kind of thing, although it costs a heck of a lot less, and it's not going to be due every month. Leave a comment. Let me know. What have I left out? Is there something more important that I should include? I'd be curious to know. Also, real quick, I do have 2 additional channels. Robmotive Project Cars, all about the Mercedes-Benz, lots of mods and things over there. And Robmotive JT, all about the Jeep Gladiator. Check them out, and if you're interested, why not subscribe? And while you're at it, smash the subscribe button here too. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.